I wasn't even supposed to be there that weekend. My roommate Jason had planned a guy's trip to his cousin's house near San Diego, some kind of low-key farewell to college thing. There were 6 of us in total, all from our apartment complex, and I only agreed to come last minute because I needed a break. The house was in a quiet residential area, tucked behind a cul-de-sac. Wide lawns, trimmed bushes, almost no noise except for the wind. It felt like one of those places that were too quiet to be real. We arrived Friday afternoon. Jason's cousin, Evan, had snacks, drinks, and extra sleeping bags waiting. He seemed chill, a little awkward, maybe, but polite. That first night was mellow. We grilled outside, had a few drinks, played card games. Everyone was laughing, relaxed, just happy to get away for a weekend. Around 11 p.m. someone brought up Matt. That's when it changed. Matt used to hang out with us, but things got messy. He was unpredictable when drunk, loud, aggressive, destructive. After one night where he smashed a bathroom mirror during an argument, we stopped including him. No dramatic falling out, just a quiet distancing. But apparently someone told him about this trip. Nobody admitted it. But Saturday morning, he showed up. He walked through the sliding door while we were eating cereal. No knock, no warning. Just like he'd been invited, Evan didn't blink. He said, "Hey man," like Matt was just another expected guest. We were too stunned to react. Matt grabbed a bowl, poured himself some cereal, and sat down like nothing was weird. Jason gave me a look, but we all just played along the whole day. Matt lingered. Never quite part of the group, but never far away. He didn't talk much. He mostly watched. I kept catching him staring not at us exactly, but at specific objects. The hallway mirror, the coat rack, once the ceiling. At one point, I asked him where he was staying. He paused for a long time before saying, "Evan said I could crash here." I looked at Evan, he just shrugged, like it was no big deal. That night, after everyone went to bed, I stayed up scrolling through my phone. Around 2:40 a.m. I heard footsteps upstairs, too soft for Jason, too slow for Evan, then a creak outside my door. Then a knock, 3 short taps. I froze. I didn't answer. The handle turned a little, then stopped. Nothing else. I waited, maybe 15 minutes. Then, I got up and checked. No one was in the hall. Everyone's door was shut. I went to the living room. The sliding door was cracked open. I shut it and locked it. That's when I noticed Matt's shoes were still by the door. But he wasn't inside, not on the couch, not in the spare room, just gone. I didn't sleep much after that. Around 4 a.m., I heard something again, a faint scratching sound, like fingernails on drywall. It was coming from inside the hall closet, not loud, just steady, like someone trying to be quiet. I stood in front of the closet for a long time. I don't know how long my hand was on the doorknob, but I didn't open it. Eventually, the sound stopped on its own. The next morning, Jason asked Evan, "Where did Matt go?" Evan blinked slowly, looked at him and said, "Matt who?" We thought he was joking, but he wasn't. He insisted there was no Matt, that he never saw anyone like that. We laughed it off at first. But when we tried to bring it up again, Evan got weird, distant. He kept changing the subject, like he didn't want to talk about it anymore. I checked the group photo we took Friday night. I swore Matt had been standing to my left, but in the picture, there was a space between me and Jason, like someone had been there. Then, wasn't. I looked closer. My left arm was around something. It wasn't just hanging at my side, it was curled, like I was holding someone, but there was no one. Jason said maybe it was a motion blur, a glitch, but I knew what I remembered. I knew what I felt. There was a weight there that night. Later that day, I went to the hallway closet, opened it. Inside was a single black hoodie, one none of us recognized. Underneath it, tucked in the corner, was a sharp piece of broken mirror. The edges looked wet. I didn't tell anyone. None of us talked much on the way back. I think we all knew something was off. We just didn't want to say it. Matt hasn't texted or called since. I haven't seen him, none of us have. It's like he slipped into the trip for one day and never came back out. But here's what haunts me. Sometimes at night, I still hear that knock. 3 short taps, always around 2:40 a.m. And the other night, I found something tucked under my bed, Matt's shoes. It was a chilly night in late autumn of 2018. The cold had already seeped deep, with withered yellow leaves swirling in the wind, occasionally slapping against the car windows, making a rustling sound that seemed like an ominous omen. I had just graduated from college and found my first job in an unfamiliar city. My roommates, Erin and Jack, with whom I shared an apartment, became good friends shortly after we met. Erin was a cheerful and warm-hearted girl who always kept her old silver sedan spotless. Jack was a humorous guy who loved delving into all kinds of creepy stories in his spare time. That evening, we had planned to attend a Halloween party at a bar on the outskirts of the city. The promotional posters of the bar showed twinkling colored lights, people in fancy costumes, and mysterious pumpkin lanterns, all of which were extremely alluring. Erin drove her silver sedan, carrying Jack and me. After leaving the city, the road grew increasingly desolate, with fewer and fewer streetlights. Darkness enveloped everything around us. On both sides of the road stood rows of tall and gloomy trees, casting long shadows under the moonlight, looking like monsters ready to pounce. About half an hour into the drive, I suddenly noticed a black van behind us. Its headlights were extremely bright, and it tailed us closely. At first, I didn't think much of it, as there were occasionally other vehicles on this road. But after a while, Erin changed lanes slightly to avoid a small pothole on the road, and to our horror, the black van followed suit. Jack also sensed something was wrong. "Do you guys think that van is following us?" he asked nervously, his voice trembling slightly. Erin frowned and stepped on the accelerator, but the van sped up as well. My heart started pounding rapidly, and a sense of unease welled up inside me, as if a pair of eyes were staring at us intently. A few minutes later, a gas station came into view. The lights of the gas station shone brightly in the darkness, like an oasis of comfort. Erin decided to pull in to see if the van would keep following. After we parked, the van slowly drove past the gas station without stopping, disappearing into the pitch-black night. We let out a sigh of relief and comforted each other, thinking we had just been overly suspicious. Erin even joked that maybe the van was also heading to the party. After refueling, we set off again. However, it wasn't long before the black van reappeared, and this time it was even closer to us. Erin's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles turning white from the pressure, and cold sweat broke out on her forehead. I could feel the atmosphere growing more and more oppressive and terrifying. It was so quiet in the car that all we could hear were our own heavy breaths. When we reached a stretch of rural road with no streetlights at all, it was pitch dark. Only the car's headlights illuminated a small area ahead. The van suddenly accelerated, overtook us, and then slammed on the brakes, stopping right in the middle of the road. Erin hit the brakes immediately, and with a screeching sound, our car narrowly avoided a collision. The strong inertia made our bodies lurch forward, and the seat belts dug painfully into our skin. At this moment, the van's door slowly opened, emitting a long, eerie creak, like the painful groaning of an ancient wooden door. A person wearing a black cloak and a white mask stepped out. His footsteps were so light that there was almost no sound, but each step felt like a hammer blow to my heart. Aaron, Jack, and I were too scared to speak, trembling all over. Jack's lips moved, but no sound came out. Aaron, trembling violently, rolled down the window and asked in a weak voice, "W, what do you want?" The person didn't respond, just standing there silently, looking at us through the mask. The moonlight shone on the white mask, giving off an otherworldly glow that sent shivers down our spines. Just when we thought the most terrifying moment was about to come, the sound of police sirens suddenly pierced the air in the distance. When the mysterious person heard the sirens, his body visibly stiffened. Then he quickly got back into the van and drove away. The sirens grew louder and louder, and the flashing police lights cut through the darkness. We finally relaxed, but the lingering fear remained, and our bodies kept shaking uncontrollably. When we got home, none of us were in the mood to go to the party anymore. The three of us sat in the living room, silent for a long time. The next day, we saw on the news that on the very road where we encountered the mysterious person, there had been a missing person case. The last known location and time of the missing person was strikingly similar to when we met the black van. Ever since then, every time I think of that night, I feel a chill down my spine. That black van, the mysterious person, the gloomy rural road, the flashing police lights, and that white mask have all become nightmares that haunt me constantly. I've always been a solitary person, which is precisely why I've kept this story to myself for so long. I can't even begin to imagine how terrible it would be if this story somehow got traced back to me. But lately, I've often thought that it would be a great pity to take this secret to my grave, so I finally mustered up the courage to share it. About 5 years ago, I went camping alone deep in the Rocky Mountains. I had just gotten out of a failed relationship and desperately wanted to escape the hustle and bustle of the city to find some peace in nature. I drove my old SUV along the winding mountain roads for hours until I finally reached a remote campsite. There were hardly any other tourists around. Only a few lonely tents were scattered along the edge of the forest. I chose an open space near a stream to set up my tent. The surrounding silence gave me an inexplicable sense of peace. In the evening, I lit a campfire, grilled the food I'd brought, and enjoyed the rare solitude. Just as I was about to go to bed, a man wearing a tattered plaid shirt suddenly emerged from the woods. He looked to be in his 40s, with messy hair and an indescribable strange look in his eyes. He claimed he was also camping, but had gotten lost and wanted to warm himself by my fire. I didn't want to get involved, but seeing him shivering, I reluctantly agreed. He sat by the fire, chatting with me as he warmed himself, but his words grew stranger and stranger. He started describing the secrets hidden in these mountains, saying that terrifying sacrificial ceremonies had taken place here, and many innocent people had been used as offerings. I just thought he was trying to scare me and laughed it off. But soon he suddenly fell silent and stared straight at my tent, his eyes filled with greed and eeriness. I began to feel scared and made an excuse that I was going to bed, asking him to leave. He suddenly stood up, rushed towards my tent, and rummaged through my backpack. Before I could react, he had pulled out a shiny dagger and pressed it against my neck, demanding all my valuables. I had no choice but to comply and watched helplessly as he snatched my wallet, phone and camera and disappeared into the dark woods. I was both scared and angry, standing there in a daze for a long time before coming to my senses. Fortunately, several people camping nearby heard the commotion and came to my aid. They helped me call the police and let me stay in their tent for the night. The next day, the police arrived, but in this vast mountain area, it was extremely difficult to find the robber. I thought that was the end of the nightmare, but the truly terrifying things were just beginning. After returning home, I started having frequent nightmares. In my dreams, I was always back at that campsite, and the robber would stand outside my tent, his dagger dripping with blood, grinning menacingly at me. Even more, I found that my photos somehow appeared on some strange websites. In the photos, my eyes were empty, as if I was controlled by something. I also received silent phone calls. Every time I answered, there was only dead silence on the other end, with faint wind sounds and strange whispers. I called the police again, but they didn't have any leads either. So, I started investigating on my own, searching for information about those mountains online. By chance, I discovered a mysterious forum where many people were discussing the supernatural phenomena that occurred in that area. Some said they saw ghosts dressed in sacrificial attire wandering in the woods, and others said they heard mournful cries echoing in the mountains. The more I read, the more scared I became, but I couldn't stop. One day, I saw a photo on the forum. The scene in the photo was exactly where I had camped, and in the corner of the picture, there was a blurry figure wearing the same plaid shirt as the robber, staring straight at the camera. I decided to go back to those mountains to find out what was really going on. I contacted several netizens who were also interested in supernatural phenomena and went to the campsite together. When we arrived, an indescribable sense of oppression hit us, and the air around us seemed to turn icy cold. Just as we were setting up the tents, we suddenly heard a familiar laugh, and the robber's figure appeared again at the edge of the woods. His eyes were even more sinister, and he was muttering something. We were all too scared to move, watching as he approached us step by step. Then, something happened. His body began to twist and deform, and his skin gradually peeled off, revealing the pale bones underneath. He turned into a terrifying skeleton, let out an ear-piercing scream, and lunged at us. We scattered and fled, and I got separated from the others in the chaos. I ran desperately through the woods, but found myself seemingly caught in an endless loop, always ending up in the same place. I don't know how long it had passed, but finally, I saw a glimmer of light, the flashlight beams of the police and rescue workers. It turned out that my netizens had called the police as soon as they escaped. Later, the police conducted a large-scale search in those mountains, but found no trace of the robber, as if he had never existed. But from then on, I never dared to go to remote places alone again. That nightmarish experience became a shadow that could never be erased from my heart. Whenever it's quiet at night, I still seem to hear that eerie laugh echoing in my ears.